Little did you know, the poster is reversible, and the other side has the rest of the plot. It's going to be 100 episodes.
And it's just a picture of Taichi's face.
Oh, yeah,
Here's the new villain. We beat the new villain. We move on. Here's the new villain. We beat the new villain. We move on. Here's the new villain. We beat the new villain. We move on. Here's the new villain. We beat the new villain. We move on. Here's the new villain. We beat the new villain. We move on.
Run. Welcome to Podagus, your friendly 8-legged dog bus companion to the 2020 Digimon Adventure reboot. This week we're discussing episode 51, The Mystery Hidden Within the Crests. I'm your host, Jeff Ruberg, and for my guest this week, guests plural, I'm excited to welcome back Aster.
Hello!
And Touya.
Hi, I'm back. Somehow, this didn't work for how long's it been? 5 months?
Yeah, it was January. Oh god, that was 5 months ago, wasn't it? Oh.
That was a whole 5 months ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh my god.
It feels like 5 years.
So 5 months since Pegasmon. Oh my god.
5 months since Takeru learned to spin dash.
So Aster's been on pretty regularly, so I think we've heard her thoughts, but
For most of these.
for most of these, we'll catch up on the last couple episodes as well. But Touya, it's since episode 32, so much has happened. And first off, I'm sorry. How much did you have to rewatch in the last couple of days? Or not rewatch, but binge.
So I caught up yesterday, just in time to watch the newest episode. And that was, let me put it this way. Yeah, I'm going to watch 7.5 hours of the Digimon Adventure reboot. That's a newly formed sentence. Nobody ever said that before I said it.
Well, actually, no. I actually know somebody who practically binge watched the entire series of this
Oh
week.
my god, how do you do that to yourself?
Well, he's enjoying it actually, so I think that's fine.
I mean, I actually, after each episode airs, I watch the episode on loop for 7.5 hours every day. So I say it every day.
19 episodes.
So, but in those 19 episodes, I think there was some pretty interesting tone shifts. I mean, how was the experience?
Well, I had to watch Dark Knightmon die again, which was sad, but then it turned out to be a tie-in to a toy from a decade ago. Wow, that sure was something. Some of the characters, I feel like I know them less well after watching 19 episodes with them. And so Joe needs therapy. Some kind of home intervention. I am very worried about his personal life after that potato rant. Mimi is a capitalist pig and will die in the revolution. Gabumon accidentally walked into a Shin Megami Tensei game. That was just a side quest right out of 4. Oh yeah, they faked me out, promising Manzaemon, and then nope, it's only Waru Manzaemon, and the actual villain of the day is that thing? Why? Oh yeah, the best episode of the whole series for me was Edamon and Volcamon's rap battle. The battle of the bands they had up there.
That was fun.
I have that Muscle Hustle rant locked in my head. It won't get out.
No, I think that's a pretty common opinion. I'm glad that watching them all in quick succession did not drown that out.
No, that one really stood out. Some of these episodes, I forgot that the Underwater City episode happened until I saw the show notes today. And I was like, did I skip over that? No, I watched that 2 days ago.
What about the new Wizardmon in the show, Petaldragon? His tragic death and the bond that
lasted all of 1 episode. It genuinely feels like an old Pokemon series now.
That's not off. I'm saying this as someone who barely watched the original Pokemon series when I was a kid.
Oh, I was addicted until I realized it was going absolutely nowhere, and that was in Johto.
Oh, see, I didn't even get that far.
Johto is 200 episodes of filler.
Yeah, you're talking to the person who didn't even watch Digimon Adventure until I was 12, so I have nothing to say here.
Yeah, you're the real heretic around here. I do have this feeling. I thought there was some kind of mistake that I was going to be on for episode 51, because I got to the end of episode 50 and I was like, oh, so the series is wrapped up. I guess we're talking about episode 50. Wait, what? Why are there more episodes?
Yeah.
Come on, I don't expect closure out of Digimon Adventure : here. I don't think they're ever getting back to the real world. They'll just have a happy fade into the sunset while still in the digital world, and Taichi's mom's still wondering, where the heck did he go 4 weeks ago?
we haven't gotten any indication she's wondering, right?
We've not seen her since she left that note on the couch. Call your grandparents when you get back.
The posters were still calling this like the climax of the story. So like,
Mhm.
I mean, to be fair, I have a feeling I was actually going to bring this up when we get to the question center section. But then when you think of the original adventure, though, specifically the transition between episodes 49, episodes 52.
Like when they defeat Paimon.
When they defeat all the Dark Masters, and then suddenly we just get like a giant space flea out of nowhere.
Yeah, gosh, the show notes for that better than I do, I think, right? You read the interviews and all that stuff?
Yeah, but they don't bring it up that much.
But was it like planned? Were they writing by the seat of their pants?
I mean, that's the entirety of Adventure in Zero 2. I mean that was literally the entirety of Adventure in Zero 2. They literally wrote that as they went along. I mean, they sometimes did a better job pretending that it wasn't, but it actually was always. But like, yeah, I mean, they make a justification in like later media, like the novels and stuff. But like, yeah, the original series doesn't exactly have like a particularly predictable ending, and especially since there's a lot of like recap. There's like that whole section where it's just a bunch of recap footage for like half an episode.
Mhm.
It's not a particularly climactic final battle, and I think it's specifically because the ending of episode 54 is like that people keep forgetting this. So I feel like in terms of like dramatic escalation and enemy climactic, too, if you really, really, really want to be fair about it, the original series was kind of weird about it too.
Yeah, that's fair. I feel like I never like I always thought that like the whole series is like original series was like awkward and how like there's no one to worry about until they except for the main bad guy they're fighting. They defeat them and then there's another one.
Yeah, it's a boss rush.
Yeah.
Here's the new villain. We beat the new villain. We move on.
You can't. But yeah, and at least with the Dark Masters, like okay, they had like 4 of them presented at once, but then
right.
But yeah, at least the Pokemon was like useful because I feel like it would have been weird when fighting Paimon for that to be the like everyone banding together and like putting all of their effort into like fighting the one in
one of
unison.
4, yeah.
But I guess it could have been done that way.
Yeah, it kind of depends on your framing, I guess.
Yeah.
This series did do something the original really never went towards, which was killing Taichi.
Taichi's never died before.
Touya wasn't on when I was recording for that episode, but yeah, I actually made more of a comparison to episode 20 and 21 at the time of the original series, where it wasn't ambiguous to us that he survived, but it was ambiguous to the actual cast whether he survived or not.
See, I compared it to Digimon Cross Wars, which did the same thing of fake killing the main character, except when Cross Wars did it, I felt something.
Well, they actually stopped his heart or something. That wasn't exactly what they did, but it was kind of like in that vein.
Cross Wars was a whole Bible allegory, though. That's why nobody likes it. He dies in like there's a harrowing of hell sequence, basically.
There would never be a Bible analogy in a series with cross in the title. Impossible. Maybe if you spell Bible with an X in it.
Neon Genesis Ivan Digimon.
That's Atmon.
I told you, you're really out of the loop because people have been comparing the show to Evangelion for like every single week, every 5 minutes.
Really? Oh, all right.
Which I don't really.
Yeah,
I'm not caught up on Prodigious, by the way. I'm only caught up on the TV series.
That's fair. I just feel like people comparing it to Evangelion, it's similar to Evangelion in like the most surface visual imagery. Like,
yeah.
I was thinking about it, it's kind of like watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine and being like, this is just like Gundam because they have guns.
I'm a theme person, so like unless there's a thematic parallel you can make, it's kind of very difficult for me to make that kind of parallel.
The Evangelion comparison didn't jump to mind for me for this show. It jumped to me for Try and one particular sequence where I was just
okay, let's move on from the topic.
Yeah.
I see what you mean there, though. But Aster, since you haven't been on since that Taichi dying episode, how did you feel about like how that all got resolved?
Well, like I said on the podcast, I wanted to make sure that Hikari's reaction is reasonable and that everyone else's reaction is proportionately reasonable. So the fact that Mimi said outright, we don't actually know, instead of like everybody folding and then saying he's dead, we all need to like she actually said like we actually want to believe he's okay, but it's a big explosion, so of course we're naturally worried. I think that was kind of like very relieving that they weren't just like tossing in the towel. But then after that, like everybody suddenly swapped into like these weirdly happy faces upon learning he was alive, to the point people were kind of memeing on it. So that was kind of jarring, but I'll let it slide because I was really worried about that initial reaction.
Hey, what are you making? A flower wreath to put on Taichi's grave.
I hadn't thought about that reading, but yeah, it could.
I hadn't thought of it that way either.
It could double that way. But yeah, when they're inside the orb and it's just like Sora gleefully smiling, it's like, oh no, she has a knife again.
It's a portrayal of the Digimon fandom. We're all lost, wandering through the darkness with our happy faces on.
It reminded me of the second ending theme, which actually kind of, I thought that was supposed to be absurd, so.
Oh, that ending theme was creepy.
Yeah, I forgot about how creepy those faces were at first.
They looked like they were, in that ending theme, they looked like they were reanimated by Shademon.
Without further ado, let's jump into some Mechanorimon and climb a giant world tree for this week's episode 51, The Mystery Hidden Within the Crests, aka North, South, East Crest, aka, speaking of not watching the Pokemon anime as kids, I guess you won't get this reference, but go Crest, young Meowth.
I got that reference. That was a good episode.
Of course, there's like an actual thing that's referencing too, but I don't know that reference. I only know the Pokemon version. So, but yeah, like always, we'll only be talking about the stuff in the Crunchyroll episode, including the title and preview for next week, and anything in the original Adventure and 02 whole seasons. But I don't think there even are titles and synopses beyond next week to spoil this time.
Yeah, so, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I do have to say that I am kind of amused that enough 02 elements became relevant enough that spoiling it became fair game. I noticed this last time too, but
yeah, that's a neat. Well, it's kind of neat. I don't know if it's good or bad.
I don't know if it's good or bad. Yeah.
But yeah, recap for what happened this week. They get a call from Garbemon, who informs them that he's discovered something related to the symbols on their Digivices. They ride Commandamon to a giant world tree thing and climb up the tree, find out they meet Wisemon, who is a little pocket Wisemon inside a book, and
he's so small.
He's so small. And then they see these crest tablet things, and it turns out no one really knows what they are. Basically, there's lots of vague prophecies, and no one really knows exactly what's going on. And then a giant Kirby-esque monstrosity of a gluttonous Digimon appears and starts eating everything, and they defeat him by making him eat everything even more until he explodes in a gruesome body horror-esque sequence, and then everyone celebrates, and then they all split up because their Digivices now have compasses on them that tell them to split up because the plot demands it.
Actually, the friend I mentioned who was marathoning the entire series just caught up with the episode this morning and was commenting on how it seems to be really common for like kids shows to do that kind of thing where they like fill something up until it explodes, and how that's actually really gruesome and kind of scary.
Yeah.
But they do this a lot in kids shows, and it's kind of like body horror in a sense.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they differ in the executions of that, because like I thought the part that was the most gruesome about this depiction was like the bits of skin that fly everywhere.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's because the animators are all old enough to have played Dig Dug back in the day.
Oh goodness.
Is that a plot? Is that a thing you do in Dig Dug?
Yeah, in Dig Dug you dig down, and then there's the little enemies running around in the tunnels, and you put your diggy pump thing into them and you blow them up into big balloons until they burst.
But yeah, it's a pretty it's like very violent in a weirdly not actually. It's like a weird form of violence that I can see how it slips under the radar as being appropriate for kids, but then you think about it, it's like, no, what's going on?
This show has a weird thing for like eating plots in general. Like there's a lot of vor in Digimon Adventure 2020.
Yeah, like I feel like the Tamers universe was more explicit about like absorbing other Digimon's data, but like they didn't need to actually physically eat them. And because the series is vague about it, it's like, well, we need to show the eating.
The series also had like, we had the episode where they were getting turned into fruit to be eaten when they were ripe.
I mean, you can't eat Taichi when he's not ripe. I mean, everyone knows that.
Tell that to Yamato.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess we'll see when people write fanfic where which kids go and get turned into fruit instead.
Oh god. Okay.
Okay, I took it too far. keep moving. But yeah, overall reactions to this episode, I mean,
they have to have some kind of like obscure Digimon quota going here that they had to contractually, they were obligated to feature Burpmon of all things.
I don't know if I would say contractually. It actually seemed to be like part of the goals of the series to like bring out the whole like reference book that didn't get like anime screen time before.
I am picturing the animators like intentionally screwing up on one of the old Savers V-Pets to make Burpmon show up so that they could get animation references for it.
I think it's cool that like for the varying degrees of fandom engagement, like for the hardcore Digimon fans who like are cross-referencing Wikimon or even knew beforehand like where Burpmon had appeared, this is like an obscure reference they're pulling out of nowhere. But also for the fans who were maybe like had only seen Adventure, had only seen 1 or 2 seasons, even characters like Velgramon and like characters that have appeared from Frontier and Crosswords, to them, these feel like obscure things that came out of nowhere. So I think it's kind of cool that like it's fulfilling that, a cool Digimon I haven't seen before for a wide range of fans.
Like, I guess it is kind of like fresh for a lot of people in many ways. Like, it's not rehashing anything.
We just have to deal with all of the casual Digimon fan YouTubers being like, look at this really obscure Digimon, Agunimon.
I mean, it was interesting seeing a swarm of Pokemon this episode.
Yeah.
My friend was asking, like, is he going to be like speaking in dialect?
I don't think we've seen like 2 of them on screen together in any series before, and here there's just like dozens of them.
Yeah, that was something I never really looked into the like the null canon lore for Pokemon. So like, is he normally like is that part of Pokemon's characteristic, like seeking knowledge? Apparently, a knowledgeable Digimon scholar.
Well, like null canon is whenever there's a Digimon that's introduced via the anime, or at least like it's like most like popular, or like it is meant to be like its anime is meant to be like the most notable introduction. Usually, the null canon will pull from that, so like it'll make like light references, or like not just the anime, or like any kind of like media. When there's one piece of media that's like definitively supposed to be the one that's in kind of used to introduce it, null canon lore makes reference. Like even if it's not like super explicit, null canon will make reference. So like if you go to like the spoiler Digimon at the end of Hacker's Memory, if you go into the reference book profile, like it's pretty blatantly referencing the end of Hacker's Memory's plot, even though it's not like super like explicitly doing so. Or like Pipimon's profile is like not even subtle about the fact that it's referencing like what happened in Zero-Tube's finale. So
I wonder if the Pokemon in this, like, do they all have the big book from Frontier? Can they all pull it out at the same time?
Do they all have Patamon's Digi-Egg inside the band?
Well, they all have a book, apparently. I don't know if it's specifically the same book as Frontier, but they all seem to have a book.
See, now this is when you get into those YouTubers that do the everything is connected conspiracy theories, because if they have the book from Frontier, that means that the Adventure Reboot and Frontier are connected because they both have Pokemon in them.
No, I got it. Okay, there's only one book and they all share it. And when they pull it out of their stomach band, it's actually being pulled from a pocket universe that connects to all the other Digimon universes.
Lovely.
This is now canon.
But they can't pull it out in this series because that would mean showing us a Digimon Analyzer sequence.
But yeah, my general thoughts on this episode, overall reaction, like, it was fine, I guess. I mean, I in retrospect should have realized when the title was called The Mystery Hidden Within the Crests, that didn't mean the mystery that is going to be revealed. It meant the mystery that's going to be introduced.
I will say, like, this series has been surprisingly kind to Koshiro, which is actually kind of refreshing, because he was one of the characters I was most worried that like they were going to kind of, I don't know how to put it, but like he had a pretty unique character contrary to what you would expect in the original series, to the point where I feel like even a lot of fans like tend to not read him very correctly. I don't know how to put it. I sound super pretentious right now, but because like the original series, everyone keeps like talking about he's like the computer nerd and the machines wizard, and like in actuality it was more about the fact that he was like curious and constantly like kind of more of like he's the type who actively wants to learn more, and that was the more focal part of his character when it turns into like actual character details. So in this series, the fact that they keep like showing, they focus more on him being like more precautiously interested in and proactively interested in doing more to help and learn more is like actually very true to the original spirit of the character. And I would say he's like the closest to the original portrayal. Not to say that like I think it's necessarily better or worse if you're like the original or not like the original, but that was like, this is something that's leaving a very strong impression on me, because I feel like this is not like something I would have expected them to be very close with.
Yeah, I'm surprised by the level of nuance they've had in representing that, because I was worried when this episode, when in the teaser last week showed Adler Kabuterimon, I was like, oh no, are they going to cram in Kushiro's Mega Evolution into this episode just because there's knowledge involved? Like,
We've still got like 4 more to go through, right?
yeah. So they still, so like I thought it would have made sense if they need to cram it in somewhere, but I really was dreading the like, oh, I learned something. My knowledge is powered up. Evolution.
The real Shinka was inside us all along.
It was the friends we met along the way, Toya. Didn't you see the sequence where Taichi reflected on all of the characters that they met in the last 10 episodes as if it was the entire series? But yeah, I mean, I think the most, I don't know if it's controversial, but the most significant thing this episode, the mystery of the Crests and the fact that are these like more ancient things. How do you guys feel about that?
More the ancient than the digital world itself, which was, that's like one of the biggest differences between that and the original series, where we actually saw how that was made.
Yeah, this is a really different take. I mean, in the original series, they were specific to those characters, but now they are part of the building blocks of the digital world's reality.
And not only that, like these kids have been seeing it since they were they were younger than like the Hikarigaoka incident, like if that makes sense. Like it was, the Hikarigaoka incident happened 4 years prior to the start of the series in the original adventure. But like we're seeing like these kids at like even younger than those ages, and they've been like witnessing these like crest symbols in their lives the whole time.
Yeah.
Oh, was that? I think I missed that nuance. Like when they were showing those like scenes of the kids, were they supposed to have those were times when they saw the symbol?
Yeah, because they were saying like Taichi and Hikari were like, we're seeing like the symbols reflected on a screen when they were like little.
Oh, yeah, I totally missed that.
So it's similar to, I guess it's similar to the like why Hikari was like hearing Tailmon's voice since she was little. Like this was like a fate set for them since the very beginning of their lives or something.
It is a little bit meta now that like in the original series, the Crests were a new idea being introduced, and so they're specific to each character, but now here they've been established for, it's what, the 20-year anniversary?
Yeah.
I did, watch Adventure Episode 45, which is the equivalent Lore Dump episode, in preparation for this, because as soon as like I knew that I was going to be recording for this episode, like that was like the first thing I did. I yanked it out and watched it again. There was a very strong nuance that they said in that episode that like we don't know either. So it is true. It's kind of like simultaneously they know more and they don't know either. So it's like they made the crests in response to like the crisis that was going to happen. They like analyzed as much as they could and they put together all the preparations. But at the same time, it was kind of like, we don't actually know what's going to happen now because this was kind of like their way of making contact with humans, because they didn't like humans were like the unknown factor compared to like everything in the digital. That's why the Hikarigaoka incident was very important, because there was this like, homeostasis says like there's no such thing as spontaneous evolution. So the fact that you guys, contact with a human will actually create spontaneous evolution is like the unknown factor. So they were trying to like, in order to save everything, they were putting their bets on that unknown factor. So at the very end, they even say like, I don't actually know what's going to happen either. I'm going to trust you. I trust you guys to do that, to what decision you guys want to make, but actually I don't know what's going to happen either. And it wasn't really about like, destiny or anything like that. It was just specifically like, we figured this out. We figured out that this would give us the potential to fix the situation. And we provided you with what you need to do. And unfortunately, we don't know either, but we hope that you're going to, it's kind of like, I don't know, job hiring. You pick people who seem the best to do the job, and then you give them task and like, do your best. That's kind of what it was. So in this case though, it's kind of like, it really is the more like definition of like fate and kind of like prophecy, the more traditional definition of a prophecy, I guess.
Yeah, the vibe I got, and I guess like I should keep an open mind since this wasn't explicitly described in this episode, but it feels like the direction it's heading towards is the idea that like these concepts have existed tied into the digital world since forever, and probably these kids were chosen because they like most embodied that attribute, which worries me.
I mean, do definitely believe like the correlation between the person and the crest is like there's definitely a sort of selection, and obviously because they're chosen children, but there's definitely a sort of selection that they're closest to that trust trait.
I mean, I don't remember how literally this is or isn't mentioned in the original series, but I kind of got the vibe that it was more like those 8 children were chosen and then attributes were chosen that aligned with those kids. That like the kids came first, the crests came second.
Right. They made it out of them, basically.
Right. So like I think that feels like it is a much more like resonant theme for the series, that it's like about if you happen to be chosen, what is the way that you can self-actualize? Whereas this feels more like you are the fated child that represents courage. You are Taichi is the embodiment of courage in the world that we have handpicked you are the most courageous kid in the planet.
I mean, I guess it depends on your definition of fate too, because like, is it necessarily like because he was like chosen because it's just going to conveniently be that way, or is it because like you were chosen because you were the kind of person who was most likely to align to that kind of thing in the future? So it may depend on how future episodes play it.
Yeah.
Rather than, it's strange, I should have thought of that comparison to that episode, but what actually came to mind for me was, so this is like a downtime episode between the major conflicts. So for me, the episode that came to mind was actually 38 from Frontier, when Barrowmon is explaining the origins of the digital world and Luchamon and all of that, when we're between the Kirby Monarch and the revival of Luchamon.
Right.
Yeah, totally. I actually, when last episode aired and there was a teaser for this episode, the first thing I did was look back at parts of that Frontier episode.
Yeah, I think that's also relevant.
The use of the crests, to me, I feel like it aligns more with actually the elements in Frontier, the spirits that are where it is like more of a traditional fantasy element of like fire, water, wind, beetle.
But like also because the part that it was an ancient power or something like significant in the ancient past, that like some of it has been lost to history and some of it there's a need to invoke that again, but like how exactly to do that is not exactly clear anymore because of how much time has passed.
Yeah.
It was kind of interesting how like not only do they not know anything this time, but they even make a huge point of like Wisemon even bringing up a blank screen to make a point. We really don't know anything, no matter how hard we try.
Yeah, it was a little him. Well, I mean, it worked, but I was like, okay, you don't need to be so dramatic when he's like, here's our answer. And they're like, it's a blank screen. He's like, yes, that's the answer.
I mean, he's pretentious enough that he would do that, but...
Yeah.
Oh, wait, speaking of his pretentiousness, well, this isn't really pretentious, but his weird speech pattern, I was curious if both of you had any thoughts about how the subtitles translated the whole, like, this brings joy to my knowledge thing.
I thought it was weird, but I don't have an alternative to suggest.
So, like, what, he's saying just, like, Chichiki no Yorokobi, right?
Waga Chishiki no Yorokobi, I think.
Oh, okay. I guess I missed the ni.
So it's actually a pretty literal translation, but at the same time, it's kind of like he is that kind of person to use that kind of weird poetic phrasing, so that's not wrong.
Okay, I mean, the only thing, the vibe that it gave off, I mean, I was like, okay, this is like a weird speech pattern kind of thing, but watching with my boyfriend, he turned to me and he was like, why is this a cult? Like...
It's the good counterpart to the Vademon cult from the previous episodes, which wasn't explained, was it?
No.
Why are there Digimon that worship Millenniumon?
I think they watched The Rise of Skywalker and were like, yeah, let's do that. Which of all Star Wars movies to pull inspiration from?
I haven't watched any Star Wars movies.
I'll fix that for you.
I'm sorry.
We can group watch. I have Disney Plus.
I'm curious what elements of Star Wars you just know through cultural osmosis and what.
A lot, but yeah.
Oh, yeah. So my roommate last year, I showed them, they had never seen any Star Wars movies. I showed them episode 4, and their response was, I hate that I know the entire script of this movie without having ever seen it. Like half the quotes in that are titles of tropes on TV tropes, I think.
Yeah. I will say it was a little surprising to see the tonal shift, like when Bertmon came into the picture, because I was wondering, like, are they going to try and like portray this extremely comical concept Digimon as more serious than it actually is, only for the music and presentation to actually go for that kind of silly atmosphere after a whole episode of like the more mystical lore dump. That was a
Yeah,
little
there was some
surprising.
whiplash there.
Yeah, but I guess, yeah, it seems like a very intentional choice to go for that whiplash. Like we had the big dramatic climax, and then some more dramatic mystery, and then some fun times. I mean, it was still like a bit dramatic, but it was like, this is so absurd.
If anything, I guess I'm just really glad that the Tree of Knowledge didn't end up being what I was really worried it was going to be.
I mean, you never know.
Hey, there's 16 episodes left. There's still time for the Royal Knights and Yggdrasil to rear their ugly heads. We're not safe. They have to scale up somehow. They beat Millenniumon. What's going to be worse than that?
Okay.
So what did you think of, like, I can't remember when in the episode, but they at one point like flashed to like what seemed to be hinting at what the great catastrophe was, but they also could have just been the flashes that I thought were notable were of that like little seed, like Lucimon form-esque thing from the beginning that I don't think has ever actually been seen since it was flashed in the beginning.
Yeah, like generally speaking, when I was discussing this with the friend, like the speculation has been that because they're constantly been on this like thread of Digimon that haven't been super represented in the anime before, it's actually very likely they're going to pick one of those again.
So has that weird seed Lucimon baby form-esque thing, or Lucimon larva form-esque thing, is that a real existing Digimon that's already
I feel like those who are more well-versed in the franchise may be able to pick that up, but I am not personally sure myself.
Has it shown up before? Is that what you're asking?
In this series, I don't think so.
Oh, no, I meant before this series, but I think it was like in some silhouette form in like the first couple episodes. That's why I was like, I don't know if they're just, flashing back to their memories of what happened. Like there was one point where there was menacing Soundbirdmon on screen, and I was like, is this a flashback to the enemies they used to fight, or are the Soundbirdmon relevant again?
And I did get the impression they were hinting at something with that.
Yeah. So, I mean, the real villain's going to be Soundbirdmon, just...
Well, if you asked me to put my money on it, I would say that the final boss is probably going to be an original Digimon made for the series.
That's also possible.
Just because they have to escalate beyond Zed Millenniumon. And if they were to keep pulling from the null canon for that, the number of things that out-threat Zed Millenniumon, it's a very exclusive club. And I think it mostly comes from like the Cross Wars era, actually. Like if somehow Shoutmon Cross 7 Superior Mode was the final boss, or
that would really be the end of the world, wouldn't it?
Oh, I totally missed this. I was just looking back at the episode now that it's implied that Soundbirdmon actually like are the ones that drop off Birdmon. In the tree.
So
okay.
They're minions of something.
Interesting. So yeah, they're definitely relevant again.
They could have what was it, Jingtrix, or one of the mobile games introduced that Buddha Digimon that like had attained enlightenment.
Oh, I think I vaguely understand what you're talking about.
For some reason my brain is like Shaktimon. I don't think that's a real Digimon. I think my brain made that up.
Yeah, I mean, in general, most of the final bosses in like the prior series had been like original forms or original entities to that series at the time, right? Like, I don't think there's ever been a case of like taking a final boss that had actually existed a long time ago.
Oh, Shakamon, rumored to be the being closest to Yggdrasil in the digital world.
Great.
But I don't think that. I think they will come up with an original one, because like when you look at the precedent, Luchamon's Seidan mode was, I think, created in the same year that Frontier aired.
Right.
Belial Vamdemon, that was specific to 02.
I mean, Apocalypmon being new at the time kind of goes without saying.
Yeah.
And like, D Reaper was original.
Iggy got a new form for Savers.
Yeah. And Cross Wars and Atmon were also original. So, I mean, I think if you want to have like a real feeling of like a threat, a major threat, you want it to be something you've never faced before, even in a meta sense, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I think we are at a point of like, okay, you've shown me a lot of cool Digimon that I never thought would ever be drawn in an actual animation cell in my life, but show me something new.
Right.
Something I can't anticipate.
They already had precedent with like Dundevimon, which is completely new to this anime.
Yeah. Dan Devimon.
Speaking of things that are new to the series, I guess this isn't entirely new if you count Genai, but I found it very unsettling watching the kids ride inside Mechanorimon. Something about that.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking that too. I was like, this is different. Actually, I was even wondering like when like Wisemon turned out to be the type who was like, will say like, that the knowledge brings him joy even when it's like bad news. I was wondering if he might like turn on them for the sake of like gaining more knowledge. But so far, I don't know about later, but so far he seems to have still been benevolent by the end of the episode.
Yeah, the moment when they're walking through and like they're asking about the garbage data and Garbymon is like hesitates, I was like, is this just referencing the fact that his name is Garbage? And he's like, like it's like a joke or like a awkward moment, or is it actually like a sinister thing that this is like these are Digimon they've harvested or something and like they're actually a murderous cult?
Yeah.
And I guess it was benign. But Kushra was staying there. Kushra was going to stay there. Maybe there's more plots to be had in the giant tree.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, the fact that he's actually going to be, like, staying around and we're still going to be seeing more of them means that we can't rule everything out yet.
Yeah.
I do like the detail that he was the one who, like, figured out the solution because he remembered that detail of the garbage data existing. Again, I think the series has been very nice to him. So.
Yeah, nicer than it's been to poor Joe.
Oh, God. I feel so bad for him.
At least Tailmon calls him the leader, I guess.
With the Mechanorimon riding, I thought that wasn't there a sequence in 02 where the Kaiser rides in one to retrieve?
Yeah, to retrieve Devimon's data and completely loses his head as a result.
Yeah, so this is not a it's weird. It doesn't read as something heroes do to me.
Only a villain would do this.
I mean, even when like Genai jumped in one, he was basically like hijacking one, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
But then he keeps it until he's like later in the main timeline of the series, right? So
it's like when you like reprogrammed a Terminator, you know?
Or look, when you're a Gundam character and you steal an enemy mobile suit, finders keepers.
Well, on that note, let's move into some through reviews. First off, from @Camimon95, Poyo eating everything.
@Metal Calamon, Burpmon 2 OP.
@NoContextmon, Kirby's Digimon Adventure.
@Cybergemon22, Mystery Crest Mysterious.
@Yodamon22, Tree of Knowledge.
@Drew Softman, Serving of Plot?
Yeah, I guess it's like serving of food? Like, I don't know, but...
Yeah, this is our they're throwing us a bone here. Now, get out of here. We're going to have a Burpmon sequence.
Burpmon ate the bone, but Golden Pelt said, post-game quest begins.
It's DLC.
Yeah, this feels like DLC or the post game or a new game plus. Like
they added this for the remastered version.
Oh yeah, this is a Digimon Adventure 2020 Intergrade.
@PDX Anime, splitting the party.
@Yawning, more heroic spam.
That's a good pun. I don't think I've ever had spam. Scares me. I've never had it. Like just seems I don't know something about it.
I've had spam fried rice before.
Yeah, I have too.
That sounds good. Bored Individual said, Burpmon got Big Mamamon. Yes. And it was horrifying.
@Lucas Cucas, where's Ken's crest? I mean, it didn't exist until 02, even chronologically in universe. It did not exist at the same time as the original set, so I wouldn't worry about it too much.
@AndyLucasOE, kindness crest shafted.
I mean, if you think about it, they showed true kindness by not bringing Ken into this reboot, so...
I mean, I think a lot of 02 fans have said, like, they don't really want to see him suffering again, even if it's in a different universe, so yeah, I would agree with that.
I love 02. I don't want 02 remade.
No.
Yeah, I'm conflicted. But CRR McRae said, finally the crests.
@Dak and Jackster said, wise guy, huh?
@Joseph Snosif, Wisemon perfect size.
Very portable.
Extremely.
Austin LC23 said, crests remain unnamed.
Yep, they didn't actually... Well, I mean, if they're going to actually have little mini focus episodes on it now, there's your chance. @CC Takato, need more Pokemon. I agree.
@NNN Podcast, Poyo Poyo Poyo.
I love all the Kirby jokes.
The one about need more Pokemon, I feel like there were too many Pokemon. I'm already scared how many Pokemon there are.
Pokemon Army, rise up.
@Jason26, the joy is spreading.
@Blue Ike Tweaks, Kirby, Kirby, Kirby.
Oh, no, that's not how you say that. No, this is your ruined childhood happening again.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Kirby, 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 that's the name you should know. Kirby, 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 he's the star of the show. Kirby, right back at you. Yeah.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay, now I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, we should watch that too. Group watch.
Oh,
we've got a whole backlog.
I did not remember that song. All I remembered is the phrase right back at you. And I just think Kirby whenever I hear or like anything that is about back, I just think right back at you. Well, on to listener comments and questions. First off from @thousandline, having recently been in Dragon Quest XI, this Digimon season has been feeling a lot like that. Beat the final boss just to get a whole entire Act 3 where we find out the true secret of the world and fight the true final boss. Whatever, I'm just happy we're finally getting megas. This reminded me a lot of Ni no Kuni had a similar experience where it's like, oh, all the stories leading up to this moment, you defeated the big bad guy. Oh, here's
I
another
feel
one.
like it's like a JRPG trope, kind of in a sense, isn't it? And like even you can say the original Digimon Adventure was kind of like organized like a JRPG because it was like a boss rush, right? You beat a mini boss, you beat a bigger boss,
Yeah.
you finally beat the boss that has some kind of tie to the whole story in some form.
Yeah, I think we've compared this series to a video game before that like the characters are level grinding and that's how they're unlocking their new forms.
Like, I don't, yeah, I mean, you would have to comment on the Dragon Quest comparison more than I could, but, I mean, I feel like it's definitely the kind of common kind of plot organization.
I haven't beaten Dragon Quest 11. I haven't bought Dragon Quest 11. The demo is like 8 hours long or something, and that was enough for me.
I have opinions on the series soundtrack, so that's why I haven't played a Dragon Quest game yet.
Yes.
I've played some of the classic ones, but a lot of them predate that whole like true final boss thing.
Right.
Well, I think it's an interesting comparison just because I've heard so much praise for 11. So like I'm curious to I mean to play it eventually and see if that if they handle that more elegantly or satisfyingly. But at PDX Anime said, so maybe I'm on the outs here, but I feel like the party learned something and yet nothing at the same time. The Great Catastrophe and the Crests seem to have more questions than answered. I do like how the Crests are just out in the world like in the original Digimon. Well, presumably we haven't. It's kind of implied they're going to find physical manifestations of the crest, but they didn't explicitly say it. But anyway, back to the comment. But the extra step to split the party for the 4th time seems like a bit of a hassle. I wish this episode was a straight lore dump and skip Kirbymon.
I will say a lot of people were afraid that they were just gonna like dump all of the ultimate forms in one episode. So this is probably a better alternative than that. Actually, if you've played Adventure PSP, one of the ways that they introduce the ultimates, because they can't do that normally when they're being so adherent to the anime normally, is that they do actually kind of if you got a high enough of like a rank with like bonding with the other kids for each kid, they kind of send them into a pocket dimension where they have to fight a battle, and then if they fight the battle, they get access to the ultimate form. So I guess it's kind of vaguely similar to that in some sense.
Clearing out the side quests.
So this is a video game.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was, in terms of reasons for them to split up, this was a fairly natural one. Or I think what made it feel natural to me is how there isn't a big, there's like a vague catastrophe on the horizon, but like for right now, things seem peaceful. So it's like plausible they could split up without much danger.
The friend who was marathoning the series, and like full disclosure, the friend is actually like loving the series. There's someone who has watched almost every single series of Digimon to date and actually still like loves this one. So they're enjoying it so much. But yeah, they were saying it was kind of like almost like sort of, what was it? I think Breath of the Wild syndrome, they said, where like there's supposedly some kind of massive calamity on the horizon, and yet they keep doing side quests. So like it is kind of different this time, that at least like they're not acting like the threat is immediately going to happen right now.
Yeah, I feel like what Breath of the Wild did well in that was kind of like, you woke up after 100 years, so like the calamity's on the horizon, but like you've been asleep for 100 years, so like what's another day? I mean, but like, yeah, when this show was doing its like side quest recently, was like, everything's about to collapse, he's about to be revived, and let's go for the races.
Yeah, and well, with Breath of the Wild, we were also getting like constant updates throughout the game, if I'm remembering right, that like the seal is weakening over time, but there's also stuff you need to go and get in order to fight Calamity Ganon. So as you're getting those things, the seal is getting weaker and the enemies are getting stronger, and so there's more of like a measured, okay, this is escalating over time, we gotta hurry up. Whereas here it's been kind of like, the catastrophe is here and it's ready. It's like Little Caesar's pizza. It's hot and ready.
I mean, to be fair, it is easier to pull this off in a game than it is in anime, because like in game you have like that, like what they call suspension of disbelief, or gameplay and story segregation. Yes, I'm quoting TV tropes. But yeah, in an anime it's kind of hard when you actually have a sense of time.
If they actually made a video game of this anime, would we play it?
Maybe. Depends on how well it plays.
Yeah, if it's a bad game, no, of course not. But next comment from Lucas Kukas. I may be way off. This is the first time we've seen Metal Greymon's wings actually flapping. Usually it seems like he just kind of hovers, but they actually added motion to them when he and Garudamon lifted up Bertmon. It felt weird to see. I did not notice this at all and was like, this seems like a weird thing to nitpick. And then I looked at the clip and I found it horrifying. And I already posted on Twitter about it because it freaks me out.
I'm getting a weird sense of deja vu from this question.
Did this happen before?
I feel like it has, but it's been 5 months.
It's just like part of like what I find awkward about it isn't that it moves and doesn't move normally, whatever. It's like that it moves like,
they don't really look like wings. They kind of look very like stiff, like almost like, I don't know. They don't really look like wings that should like make something fly, even though they technically are.
Right, like I feel like normally they look like in the way it's animated, this episode looks like they're like dainty feathers, kind of. But like I think of them more as like they're like skeletal or like
They have holes in them.
vestiges.
Oh my gosh, it does look really bad.
Yeah. It's weird though because it's like they animated it too much for once.
I
Like,
mean, if those were gonna pull him up, it'd have to be animated by like bumblebee wings.
yeah, it's true. Just like have it blurred when they're moving. Well, CyberJamon22 said, in 99, our big exposition episode starts with War Grandma vs. Metal Garurumon, but the writers put it at the start of the episode. Throughout the Burpmon fight, I was just wishing it would end already so we could go back to the exposition. Am I alone feeling this flaw structure-wise? I didn't particularly feel that because I feel like they got out. There wasn't anything more these characters knew by the time Burpmon appeared.
Yeah, I mean, other than the mood whiplash, I think like the structure was okay, and especially if you're gonna compare it to, you know, the aforementioned Adventure episode 45, that episode is actually really weird, and that they start off like it's the episode is even titled in Japanese like War Greymon versus Metal Garurumon, like it's some like kind of big fight, and then like it only lasts like 10 minutes, and then the rest is just plot dump, plot dump, plot dump. There is no climax in the episode at all. And it's an important episode on the scope of the wider series, and very relieving for the characters who didn't know what to do up until this point. But it is kind of jarring, actually, that you were probably expecting this like massive like let's you and him fight, and then it doesn't happen, and then you get a ton of like plot up, and there's no like traditional like rising and falling action. And for some people that might be a problem too. So I mean, I'm used to it because I've seen Adventure how many times now.
Imagine if they had titled this episode like Catastrophe, the Gluttonous Burpmon.
Yeah, I feel like I appreciate that original style better, where it's like you hype up the fight and then the lore dump is more of the like surprise. And I feel like that feels like it's something that comes from a place of confidence in the lore dump itself being interesting. Whereas this one felt like they kind of had to rest on the crest being the enticing thing.
I mean, I'm sure the kids were disappointed back in the day.
Oh yeah, we all were. War Greymon versus Metal Garurumon was a really hyped fight, and then it's cut short. I don't think there was a definitive winner in that at all.
No, there wasn't. Nobody won that.
And people really wanted to see a rematch.
See, I was 12, so I never got to like witness any of that in real time, but I had a feeling the kids were not going to like this.
Yeah, that's something I kind of forget about, because in retrospect, I think that structure is great and fantastic. But yeah, I guess as a kid, that's like, oh man, I want to find out who won. Oh man. Joseph Nosif said, if you could, which character's crest journey would you join? Personally, predictably, I would join Takeru so I can see my husband Magna Angemon and add a few wings.
I'm curious how those two, Hikari and Takeru, are going to have like I'm sure there's going to be like slightly different from the others, because they already have ultimate forms. It's just like we're not sure whether we're talking about putting them on a journey to get like the angel forms, or whether they're going to stick with the dragon forms, because they did the same thing again where it was like exhausting to reach those forms, so they can't do it often. This is how we nerf them. But
yeah, I wonder. Yeah, I mean, the journey could also just be to get back to evolving it all, to get back to Holy Angemon and Angelwomon.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess we'll see once Joe is their babysitter.
I would probably want to follow Joe's journey, because I'm worried about this kid. I gotta ask him some crisis hotline questions. Like, do you feel unsafe going home from school? Have you lately had any thoughts of harming yourself or others? Like, after that potato rant, there's a lot more going on with this character, and I'm seeing red flags here.
I think I am personally most interested in Koshiro and Joe, which is kind of funny because they're my two favorites from the original adventure as well. But in this case, it's actually because, I think this anime has been very kind to Koshiro, so there's a lot of interesting things. They still hinted something is going on with his family, and they still haven't answered that.
Yeah.
And I'm also very worried about Joe as well. So
yeah, I think Koshiro is the only one so far that like they've seeded where the thing's going to happen. If you ignore the preview, like so I'm intrigued to see like, oh, if he stays back with the tree, like, is there more to this tree subplot? That intrigues me. I am confused about how it seemed like who chose to be riding Mechanorimon or not, and why Taichi and Sora seemed to stay together and Mimi split off on her own. I guess they're just following wherever their compasses lead them, and Taichi, except for Taichi, who is it kind of, I was assuming maybe this is the obvious assumption that like his is flipping every which direction because he already quote unquote has his crest
Right.
somehow.
So
Courage is all
so it's
around
better
you.
to support the others, or I guess.
Yeah, so why does he choose to support Sora in particular? Shippers will go wild with that, I'm sure. But
Yeah.
in terms of their actual like actualization journeys, yeah, I think Koshiro, I have the most trust in the writers doing it well. So I'm most scared about Joe.
I'm just interested in general. Like if I even like, you know, writing precedent beforehand, like what if I had to pick, like which one would I be most interested in seeing on concept? I think that would be it.
Taichi's spinny compass just reminds me of like that line in the first localization for Chrono Trigger where you're at the end game in the end of time and looking, you're like side quest hunting, and then one of the hints you get is somebody close to you needs help. Find them fast now.
Dak and Jaxter said, after the Millennium Monarch, it was important to establish a new premise. They draw attention to the crests and find more organic reasons to separate the group. What do you think of the vagueness of the oncoming threat? I wasn't sure at first, but if they're doing more offshoot adventures, then it's better the overlooming threat is unclear, so we don't get the same urgency leisure clash we got last arc. Which I think that's pretty similar to what we mentioned before. And they also mentioned a potential dub line where, oh no, he ate Garbagemon, and then Bartmon spits him out, and they're like, oh, I guess he doesn't like junk food.
Well, I mean, earlier we discussed like the benefits and, you know, downfalls of this having such a big oncoming threat. Although I do find it funny that this is not the first time I have seen speculative dub lines for the series.
Yeah.
Even like the fact we haven't had a dub convent. And I was kind of thinking about that, and I was like, I feel like this is like one of the series where like getting really interpretive with the dub wouldn't necessarily impact its actual plot writing as much, just because like the original had like this really that I also complained about, that like even making subtle tweaks and nuances suddenly like will change someone's entire characterization. But in this case, I don't think you have that to worry about, so maybe go wild.
Yeah, and but on the other hand, it's like we're in such a different dub climate these days, and like
I don't know, given the Crosswords dub, I don't know about that.
even that was a while ago, right? Like
I don't know if the series is going to get dubbed, and that's a weird feeling.
I've actually been keeping an eye on whether it's getting Korean dubbed, because every other Digimon TV series has been dubbed. So
did Batmon get a Korean dub?
Yes, Atmon has gotten a Korean dub. So
If there's a dub for this series, I'll audition for it.
who do you want to play?
You need to play the sound effects in the opening.
Oh man, I don't know. I would need to do some vocal training, but I could try to pull off Volcamon. I want to yell his rant at them.
Go for it. I support you.
It's ambitious. You want to take Volcano Oda's throne.
No, I want to be his dub voice actor. I'll start dubbing over him in real life for other people.
Well, next question from Austin LC23. I have no evidence to back up this theory, but what if the catastrophe is Patamon and Gatomon? I doubt they'll go this direction, but it could explain what's wrong with them if they end up turning into dark forms such as a Funimon Falda mode and Shadow Seraphimon. And then separate, I think they're referring to the general plot hook. Do we like the plot hook of this episode?
I mean, they were hinting at like, you know, the whole plot with like Holy Anjima had to like, you know, absorb his darkness and all that. So it could be them. It could be an offshoot of them, if that's a thing now. Actually, suddenly I'm thinking of when it comes to like Ophanimon, like evil forms, if you want to do something more creative, there was that whole thing that went on in Digimon Story, was it Dawn and Dusk? I think it was Dawn and Dusk. I didn't finish the game, but the evil form shown in that game was directly named after the antagonist that possessed her, so maybe that doesn't work.
Oh, they could try to reimagine it, or they could try to go for like a Skull Holy Dramon or something.
Ooh, evil dragons. I like evil dragons. Yeah, I do feel like I know everyone loves the Angel Digimon and all that, but I do kind of like think it's refreshing that we're using more of the dragons and other stuff, because like I feel like everyone kind of has a fixation on angels at this point.
When I saw Holy Dramon show up, I was like, Aster won.
Well, come on. I mean, I wasn't okay. The only reason I was in such a strong like Holy Dramon camp in the original series was because it was already on screen on the original series, so I wanted it to be consistent with what was like shown before. Here, I didn't really care as much, but I also just really like the designs, so.
I love the long fuzzy pink cat.
I know.
Yeah, I think the angels are... I think I personally prefer them when they are other characters existing in the world.
Yeah.
For the forms for these characters to get to, I don't particularly mind either way.
Yeah.
And I guess on a similar note, Cece Chicago asked, with potentially only one core left, had they give up on having any sort of plot?
Well,
I'm worried.
they haven't changed the ending theme. I noticed that, even though we're technically supposed to be in a new core. And I also noticed that, like, like the that poster that they like keep putting out everywhere, and they said that it's supposed to correspond with the climax of the story, and it was the one that showed all the ultimate forms that the majority of them we still haven't seen yet. So like I'm kind of still like very vague on how many episodes there's supposed to be left. I don't know if it's a full core.
Yeah, was the 66 episode thing fake? Did that turn out to be fake? I've been out of the loop.
It's been unconfirmed to in any direction. So like
Yeah.
and the other part that's like throwing me off is that the BD boxes are all 12 episodes each so far, but like 66 doesn't align with that kind of scheme, so
Yeah.
I'm just confused.
Wait, I'm failing to do the math at the moment. So 60 would be a cutoff for 12,
Yeah.
right?
Not 66, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. The thing that I find weird about that arc that was like promoted to be like the climax of the series, I feel like if you look at like 80% of the poster and ignore like a sliver of like the like 20% of the top, that's the climax we got. And it's just there's also Rosemon, Hoemon, Vikemon, and Hercules Kabuterimon.
Yeah.
Like, so and they're they take up such a small part of the poster. I'm like, I don't know.
I really don't know what to expect now. Yeah.
Yeah.
As always, I don't know what to expect.
Little did you know, the poster is reversible, and the other side has the rest of the plot. It's going to be 100 episodes.
And it's just a picture of Tai Chi's face.
I am concerned with when they're vague like this, and they're just like, here's a great catastrophe. We know nothing about it. This gives me like war flashbacks to Cardfight Vanguard Season 2, where they're very clearly stalling for time, trying to come up with something where they say that there is a mysterious force that is threatening the world, and every time they flash to it, it's just like some bad weather, like clouds over a wasteland. And then you get to Season 3, and lo and behold, they have finally written something, and it's completely different.
I mean, to be fair, that was because it was catching up to a manga, wasn't it?
Yeah, kind of.
It was like it was the literal definition of filler. So they had something that they were stalling for.
Yeah, Vanguard has a weird situation where the manga and anime are simultaneous, and they use the core concepts are created by the like creative director of the series, Akira Ito, and then he does the manga, and the anime does something, but then they get desynced because they debut at the same time. They don't have enough lead time.
Right.
We don't have that issue.
And like Jeff said, it does seem like they're actually bringing something they were hinting at since the beginning.
Yeah.
Or at least at the beginning.
And I feel like I don't mind this being so hands off, because when they were more aggressive about it early on, it like didn't work so well. like Toya, you're describing that like ominous threat of like vague weather. Like that's how it felt when it was like, oh no, blackout in Tokyo. Blackout in Tokyo. Oh no. Like
too concrete.
So, I don't know. I feel like the most important thing is focusing on the characters and having good character stories. Like for all intents and purposes, like that good stretch with the Edamon and Panchamon episode didn't really matter that Millenniumon was the threat during those episodes. So
yeah,
I like that that's a focus. But next question from Andy Lucas OE. And they wrote in saying, I really enjoyed what I think was the meta humor of the Crests existed long before our world did, since, this is a reboot and all. But plot-wise, could this imply the multiverse exists and the OG adventure happened, and this universe received data from there? Or the world was destroyed previously a la Pokemon and rebooted, but the original kids left their Crests behind to help protect the world. I think Genai and Co. created them in Adventure 99, but they weren't as important to the structure of the world, so their existence changes their place in the world's lore in this universe.
If this anime is a sequel, I will riot.
Well, it was funny though when this reboot was first announced. I started like, you have to understand that I make like a lot of joke theories that I know are never going to be real, but I'm just trying to like have fun. I was joking that like maybe this is like Rose and Maiden. I'm about to spoil Rose and Maiden, but Rose and Maiden where they acted like they were rebooting the manga into an alternate timeline, and it turned out that it was actually like partially into the story. It turned out it was actually the original universe had to make contact with this like alternate timeline to like. It's too complicated. I'm not going to go into details, but I was joking like it would be funny if like this ended up being that way. So I guess this theory is kind of close to being that. I don't think they will do this, and I especially don't think that they would destroy the original universe, because I think people would get really pissed off. They did that. They did that in Pokemon, and people were very upset. So
in Pokemon,
yeah, they did that in Pokemon. A lot of people were really angry, and I don't blame them.
Wait, in the games or the anime?
Yeah, the games.
Oh right, the world, the original Ruby Sapphire timeline is a separate universe from the Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire
Oh.
timeline, and
But it was Sun and Moon that blew it up.
yeah, with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon.
Oh god.
No, it was
okay.
even the original. It was even the original
Oh,
Sun
it
and Moon that
was.
blew it up.
Jeez.
Yeah, everyone was trying to like put it out of their minds, and the Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon came around and like made it like undeniable.
Yeah, the post-game scenario in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, the villains come from other universes where they won.
Yeah. Well, it is true that it doesn't like the existence of the universe did not hinge on them in the original. So
Yeah, and whether it ties in or not, it is a cool concept that, like, yeah, it's very wink, wink, nod to the audience when they say that they've existed before the digital world. I think to me, the thing that makes it feel like this wouldn't be that exciting or satisfying if it did have an explicit, like, multiverse with the original series is like, would it actually be engaging to see two different Taichis who look almost identical aside from like their gloves and sweatshirt?
Well, even if like you don't have them directly meet, like at the same time, like this anime is very clearly not really it's not really trying to lock out people, and I feel like that's introducing lockout.
Yeah. The only way that I would support it is if the original Taichi showed up and was like traditionally cell animated while the current one is still animated in this style. And so
I mean, if they had the original cast be voiced by the current voice actors, I think people would kill them.
yeah, that's not gonna, and you can't really, I mean, some of the original actors are dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be, aside from fan reaction, like that would probably be like disrespectful in the scheme of things. So I'm just thinking, like, even when like multiple Taichis have crossed over in the Retamer manga, they look distinctive enough because they have like different design aesthetics, right?
Yeah, even like so the V-Tamer Taichi, like he has like the whole cape specifically to kind of like distinguish him.
I definitely don't want this series to like turn out to be some Nietzsche eternal recurrence scenario where like the universe died and was reborn and now it's like happening cyclically, because that implies like going on to resolve the loose ends of, so what happened to the rest of the adventure continuity? And also it feels like it erases everything Kizuna accomplished.
Or just like everything everyone worked really hard for during the entire course of Adventure 02. And the like, it's like everyone worked so hard for that and then you just blow it up. It just doesn't feel great, Yeah.
But if we're going into crazy alternate theories here, I think the most edgy, hardcore. Have you guys seen I don't even know if I want to mention it because it's like it feels like it's made intentionally to be bait, but that trailer for the vaguely Pokemon aesthetic game that's been going on the last couple of days.
Oh, that's totally made to be bait.
Which one are we talking about?
There's that new game where it's basically, my friend described it as Pokemon if it were actually the way Pat had described it. So it's like joking about like it's only illegal if it's poaching is only illegal if you get caught, and like totally like labor laws don't apply to them, so you can do whatever you want to exploit them. I mean, I think it's totally made intentionally like that. But
wait, is this Koromon or
no? It's
hold on, I'll find you the clip.
Pal Wonder or something. It's actually been in development for a while, but it went viral like yesterday.
I was thinking that it was like not actually a real video game. It was just like a trailer made to go viral.
No, it's an actual video. Well, like the studio that does that makes like morbid games like that. Like that's
I
part
see.
of their brand. So I think like they're deliberately trying to be funny about it.
Yeah, but seeing that trailer reminded me of like what people kind of like when they want these like elaborate death battles between Wargrave and Metal Garurumon. It's like there's a reason this is not how the tone of the series actually goes.
I do want to remind you that the inventor of the monster collecting genre was actually Shin Megami Tensei.
Before they added the Shin to the title.
Yeah, it's actually Megami Tensei. Like the way I joke about it is like that this, like everyone talks about like how the edgy ones are like the ones that's deconstructing it all. But like actually what happened was Megami Tensei came like, how messed up it would be if you got to collect a bunch of like eldritch abomination monsters and like collected and toyed with them at your will, and then like Pokemon and Digimon came around and went, yeah, actually that sounds really cool.
I've read the original Megami Tensei novel, by the way, and it is garbage pulp. It is like some of the worst literature you can possibly write, and I think the author knew that it was crappy pulp fiction and just cut their check for the licensing and ran.
So I guess, yeah, like it's interesting that like the entire concept of Pokemon and Digimon doing it in like a cute way is a deconstruction kind of
the original one that was actually significantly edgier.
Yeah, but so the most notable moment in the trailer for that Pokemon adjacent edgy game is when there's an assembly line of slave labor Pokemon-ish things making machine guns, and it's like, oh my god. But what I was trying to say is that like the version of that for this reboot, if it was that edgy, would be if the original Adventure Kids come into this timeline and they can't both inhabit the same space, so they need to murder a new version of themselves to take over their lives.
Oh no.
Can you just see Joe like strangling out other Joe? Take over his life.
He's apologizing, but he's strangling him still.
He didn't get into grad school back then, but he will this time.
But he's a doctor. He's supposed to do no harm.
I'm a healer, but...
Okay, moving on from that terrible idea. Readamon22 asked, is there a third form beyond Millenniumon, beyond Zeed and Moon that we might get as a bigger boss? Or maybe Vital Bracelet C Chimeramon and Dundevimon can combine into a new form? Just because he's gone doesn't mean his cult is gone. I don't want a new plot / villain.
I did joke that like if you took Marine Chimeramon and like made like a Marine version of a Millenniumon, that like Joe would win the series because he's the one with the Marine special. I mean, they could make a new form like with Dundevimon. I don't see how that's an issue.
Well, this is lazy, but actually, if you go by the lore, if they just took the URL that's holding it down off, it would be a new form that's more powerful.
Yeah, but as we said, I think they are going to do something original because generally speaking, that's kind of how that's generally how they would do it.
Yeah. Oh, and people haven't seen this Digimon before. What they refer to as Sea Chimeramon is the actual name is Marine Chimerama, but it's spelled Marin without an E. Anyway, look it up, and it's basically just what if you combined all seafood into a Digimon?
Original food, do not steal.
It's like the Australia part of the World Tour section of Zero 2, where they like torment the Marine Digimon with like threatening to put them in a fried rice bowl.
So yeah, I don't know if. Hopefully it's an original design, but yeah, I think even if it's new, quote unquote new, it's going to tie into stuff from the beginning of the series. So yeah. But Ryudamon22 also asked, this is maybe a good question for Touya, will I ever be able to buy the card game at a reasonable price?
Aww.
I am never going to be able to get a Digimon starter deck. I have accepted this fact. It is like 37 Dundevimon Digimon dollars. That's what it is. These things were supposed to be $10 in English, and they're just getting scalped to hell. The real answer, which is what I'm doing, and you should probably do it too if you want to play the game, is to order singles. Because aside from a couple suspects like Omegamon, the singles are mostly reasonably priced. I got the bulk of, like, when I pre-ordered all of my stuff from the first set for Black, all the commons, uncommons, and rares together I think was like $22, and that was for a playset of each, so like 4 copies of each card. And then, but once I factored in like just ordering War Greymons, I think it shot up to $90, and I ended up being like, this thing's not going to be worth $16 a card in the long run, and I just didn't buy that. And hey, now it's like $10.
Personally, I'm just playing on Untap right now, but because for me, like, I'm not like a card game connoisseur, but like Touya's been trying to get me into it. But for me, because a part of the enticement of like why I should get into card games has to do with meeting people physically. Yeah. So like I'm kind of holding off until such a thing is actually possible before I start doing like real life deck building.
I can actually go into a card shop again.
Yeah. I missed the one in Little Tokyo.
Everybody get your shots.
Speaking of card shops, don't do what I did, which is fall for a grift. My local card shop only was, so that you can pre-order boxes, but they inflate them above retail price and only sell them at retail price if you buy their monthly subscription, which I didn't even know local game shops had monthly subscriptions.
Ask me before you do these things. Friends don't let friends get suckered in like that.
Like, and that's the thing, like I'm not used to, I've never really as an adult played card games and like been part of a local community at a game shop and stuff. And I'm just imagining myself, like, if Digimon did pick up in that way and like had a local community at the game shop, like, I don't know if I'd feel like I wouldn't feel like, oh, this is like, oh, my like local friendly shop, but I'm like, they suckered me into like they're like, I'm paying for this extra subscription fee just to buy it at retail price. Like, I don't know.
I've actually never heard of a card shop doing a subscription before, so I'd check back and make sure that shop is still there every week. But some stores are getting very desperate because, frankly, like, for a lot of card shops, if they had a bad month, they would close down, and they just had a bad year. Wow. So they're like doing everything they possibly can.
Yeah, that's why I know I was being suckered. Like I did it knowing this was a bad deal, but I was kind of like, they could only be doing this if they're really desperate.
Yeah. A lot of people that work at card shops, unless they are like the manager of the store, it's basically a side job. they do. Whereas like managers actually have a high turnover rate. People, they generally like, they will own a store for an average of like 3 years and make a lot of money on Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic and then get out because it's exhausting work.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So when you said that 3-year figure, that's not like the store itself existing, that's managers?
Oh yeah. So, well, I mean, stores can also basically be just, if the manager gets out and nobody takes on the business, I mean, that's just the end of that business.
Yeah.
Oh, that's sad. And like with all this scalping going on, like I don't think any of those profits go on to the people at these stores.
No. Bandai already made their money because they make their money at the distributor level. When the wholesalers buy the product, Bandai is getting paid. And so the fact that they are selling through everything is actually really good from like Bandai's end of, we're going to continue making this game, but it's harmful to like the local level and the local end, and how do we keep our organized play going so that there's sustained demand in the future?
I really hope that once, like, you know, more people are getting vaccinated and stuff, that like maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel in some sense.
Yeah. I hope that for like all parts of the production pipeline, because I think I don't know if Digimon can survive that long if it's not possible to play. I'm
concerned that this way of life might not be possible forever. It might become financially impossible to keep these local tabletop gaming events going, and card games might just be only digital someday, and that's horrifying to me. But enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Well, Ryudamon 22's other question. What Digimon from the past do you want to meet again before the series ends? I hope Joe meets Edamon again and gets to sing. I'm attempting to sing a song that'll wake me up.
Well, I do have to agree. I would like to see Edamon and Volcamon again, just because that episode was killer. The really funny part is I actually know which episode this is referencing. If you were to do this in Japanese, though, in the original version, he was singing a parody version of the ending song I Wish, because that was the song that Mimi was singing in the episode. And so the first thing I thought was like, this is horrible. Would that cause licensing problems?
Oh, gosh.
Feel Me owns that song, not the current labels.
Oh, huh. Interesting.
I don't think they would run into licensing problems, but that was just like the first thing that popped in my head.
Edamon, I mean, like canonically, Edamon and Volcamon were chasing after them that episode, and they just, I don't know, got lost eventually.
Yeah.
So,
who would I want to meet again? Other than Volcamon, it's hard for me to come up with anybody.
Yeah.
Well,
like,
do you think the Burgermon could help Joe again?
Oh, I hope so. Potamon I guess he's permanently Jagamon now.
Yeah, the Burgermon and Jagamon. Since you're so worried about Joe.
Oh, can we see Dark Knightmon again? I'm sure that won't involve any trauma whatsoever.
Yeah, I can't think of any other Digimon that I particularly want to come back. Although it does remind me how weird it is that so like all the Digimon that like were on that Eldoradimon with Leomon and Lopmon, I guess no one cares about them anymore. Like crisis was averted, they're fine.
To be fair, we're ruling out Digimon that we've seen already recently, because like we saw them not too long ago, and Garbamon, like none of us want to answer that because we just saw him this episode. So
yeah.
Wait, okay, I got it. I know who the final boss is. It's Algomon. It all ties together. It's one big circle.
I mean, you're joking, but it probably is going to be. It's going to be Algomon larva form.
Or related to Algomon anyway.
Yeah. That Digimon is the worst thing to happen to podcasting, because it's impossible to say that name without sounding like you're saying Algomon.
Algormon.
Just say Al Gore. Algormon.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, now that Al Gore has appeared,
gonna talk to us about climate change.
That is what. Yeah, that's digital world climate change.
Yeah.
So yeah, how would you guys rate this episode?
I'm just gonna give it a 3. This is like the most like middling answer I could give it.
A 2? I don't know. I didn't actually like this episode all that much.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be halfway between both of you and give it 2.5, because it's like I didn't like it and I didn't dislike it, but it like an average of 3 seems a little too high too. I'm
trying to leave my personal feelings out of it at the moment, so
how can you leave your personal feelings out of rating?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, MVP might be easier.
Koshiro, I think.
Good choice.
Pokemon.
Which one?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm gonna go with pocket-sized Wisemon.
Good choice.
Very good choice.
I don't like his cultish phrase thing, but he's very cute and pocket-sized.
It was kind of almost unnerving to see him have like the carrot facial expression.
Yeah, that was.
Has he ever done that?
Can he do other emojis with that?
That's scary.
Well, next week is episode 52, titled Dance of the Heavens Hoemon. Things like Sora and Garudamon are swallowed into the boiling lava, but that's when the wings of miracles flutter. And this, I am worried it's going to be... Does anyone else remember I don't remember what movie it was for, but I don't remember if it was Disney or Pixar, but I think it was a Pixar short, the lava volcanoes. I think it's just called Lava.
Those things.
Doesn't it, isn't there a lyric that it ends with I lava you?
It's give me someone to lava.
Oh, yeah. So that's what I'm worried. This is a lava focus episode all about love, and I'm worried.
Well, I mean, the pun doesn't work as well in Japanese, so.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't think it's actually gonna... What is lava actually? Is it just
Yogan. Okay. Yeah, the crest is aizo in Japanese, so.
Yeah, there's nothing in common. But joking aside,
well, I mean, this is kind of like the thing that they didn't do in the original series that they get to do now. So, I mean, well, it's kind of in some sense new territory. So, kind of interesting to see where it goes.
Yeah, I think it's cool. The setting, I don't know, seeing Biyamon in a top hat, or not, a hard hat made me excited.
The hard hat is funny. I mean, we know for sure it's a character episode, so we have kind of that sort of guarantee going on, and we know who it's going to be about. So kind of we set the stage there.
I think the only thing I'm worried about is Taichi's presence, but in the preview, it didn't seem like Taichi was that present.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So maybe he gets he's officially there, but he gets separated, and hopefully mostly Sora and Biyamon.
Yeah, the two of them probably had one of the most turbulent relationships in the original series.
Mm-hmm.
Because they started off on the wrong foot, and then they had the whole episode with Garudamon appeared in the first place. It had them in a fight, and then it's kind of interesting to see what this might have in contrast.
Yeah, I wouldn't normally expect them to have the room for character interaction to actually have them have a fight, but that the one shot of them looked like they were kind of fighting and sad. So
I mean, I'm going to find it very funny that the subtitles are going to continue to say Hoemon, and then just some aggressive wiki editors are going to refer to it as Phoenixmon in everything they write.
Well, I mean, you do what you can.
Yeah, there's no way to be consistent and make sense. You have to pick one or the other.
Yesterday, I learned that the Digimon card game is currently getting itself into a hole because two Digimon that did not originally have the names Greymon and Garudamon in them have to risk getting affected by cards that say if that has Greymon and Garudamon in the name.
I knew this would happen.
Wait, which Digimon are those?
There's two Digimon from Frontier that didn't originally have them in the name.
Vreetramon and
Burning Greymon and Garmon, which is Kendo Garmon. That was not in the original, which means that when there's cards that say impact Digimon that have the names Greymon and Garmon in the name, that is actually a problem.
Huh.
I think they had to write exceptions on it now.
They ran into the Yu-Gi-Oh problem of they changed Summon Demon to Summon Skull and then made a whole archetype of demon monsters that all interact with demons, and now Summon Skull has to have this card is always treated as a demon, or an archdemon, I think is what they call it in English.
Yeah, this is not new to this card game.
Yeah, that, I don't know. I feel bad because I'm none of those decisions would be easy. Because, I mean, I'm sure it would have been easier to be consistent with the Japanese naming, but then you potentially lose out on the people who are confused because they're familiar with the dubs, but also the dubs aren't that new, and what's the future of the franchise? That's tough. So, I think that brings us to the end of the show. This episode of Pottages was brought to you by books. Everyone loves books for how good they do words, but did you know they can also store pocket-sized Scholar Digimon? As a wise poet once said, butterfly in the sky, I can go twice as high. Take a look, it's in a book. Wisemon. Last week's Digiprompt was, if you disappeared for a week, what Digimon character would you hope to find waiting for you with a corsage when you return, and why? And my favorite response came in from Andy Lucas OE, who said Daigo, because if I've been missing for a week, he's been missing for 3 years. We'd both be equally relieved. He'd give me the courage, I'd give him donuts, and we'd go save Maki together.
Sure.
At least someone will in that scenario.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. This week's Digiprompt is, in honor of Burpmon's anime debut, what's the most obscure Digimon you would want to appear in Adventure 2020? Send those responses or general feedback to pottages@gmail.com, to @pottages on Twitter, or in the episode comments on pottages.com. Share the podcast with your friends who will invite you to a giant tree to tell you vague things that they could have just said over the phone. And it would be awesome if you leave a review on Apple Podcasts. It only takes a minute, and each review helps a ton. If this is your first episode, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever else you find podcasts. Touya and Aster, thank you both so much for coming back on the show.
Thank you for having us.
It's always fun.
It brings joy to your knowledge. Is that the phrase? I forget.
Brings joy to my weekends.
So, Aster, if people want to find you, where can they check you out?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Listriel. At the time of this recording, it is mostly swarmed with Miku Expo posts right now, but probably by the time this episode releases, it may be a little more relevant content.
And Touya?
You can find me on Twitter at Touya, on YouTube at Maniacs Channel,
where you can check out Touya's recent videos about the Yu-Gi-Oh card game history, which are very interesting, very insightful.
That was fun to work on. And by fun, I mean about as emotionally draining as watching Digimon Tamers again.
I thought you were going to say like it's about as emotionally draining as like trying to get a full set of Exodia in a riot.
Did you actually watch those videos?
Yeah.
I wasn't going to put you up to that.
I mean, I was involved enough with Yu-Gi-Oh as a kid that I had no idea for any of that backstory of how things evolved in the Japanese side, so that was really cool to see the history of it. I didn't realize it was so complicated with the various iterations of the game and how they had to tweak the rule sets over and over before settling on the expert rule set.
Yeah, talk about really writing by the seat of your pants, and technically that's not even the final rules revision. But yeah, if you think that finding Digimon cards is like way too pricey and difficult now, you can always just stick somebody up, pull out a gun.
Don't listen to Touya's advice.
Yu-Gi-Oh players do it, why not us?
Legally, we're obligated to say don't listen to Touya's advice.
I'll just go play Shadowverse.
But I am definitely Jeff on Twitter, and also have my general anime podcast, Love It a Wee Bit, where this week we discussed Pretty Boy Detective Club. That's not similar to Digimon. And next week,
not at all.
We have plenty of pretty boys.
Next week is I don't know what the full title, the Nagatoro thing, which I'm dreading to watch because I'm scared.
Just don't talk about translation issues and nobody will hurt you.
Oh god. The whole translation debate about the show is the least of my worries. That show seems
I know.
Well,
I'm so sorry.
But anyway, thank you everyone for listening. I'll be back next week to talk about episode 52, Dance of the Heavens, Hoemon. Bye.
Bye.
And remember, never stop Digivolving.
終わりなんかないぜそうさ怖いままなら出発点を恐れに乗って誰も知らない明日はあるから笑ってよ今さら立ち止まれるバラの日常見ちゃったあの日君と壁に書いた未完成を使っても今さらどこも行けないぜって朝かいね朝かいねなら大人になんかなっちゃいけないね
No, here's what they did. They procedurally generated all of the crests, and they looked at the results, and they said, kindness is a weakness, and they didn't select a Digimon. Or a chosen child for that.
Anyway, next... Oh my god, my voice. What happened to my throat? Hold on.
You
Drink
okay?
water, Jeff. Drink some oolong tea.
I did forget to get water this time. Huh? That's okay. Oh my god, I thought I got it out. Hold on.
Koshiro's a mascot of this of this podcast, so you need to have the oolong tea bottle on hand at all times. The one that multiply on the desk every time you cut away and back.
I did start drinking a lot more oolong tea after seeing him. Well, I'm stupid. I thought there was a try thing, and I was like, no, wait, that's a movie thing. Never mind, it's always been there.
The way it played it maybe was specifically a try thing, but
It's our War Games' fault. Everything is our War Games' fault.
yeah.
What are you talking about? That was Ty's mom's...
Potato shakes.